welcome back, my stylish friends. I'm trying to do like
You're
a
doing
very,
like a very NPR,
yeah,
like
you know,
low-key
fireside chat, you know, public radio thing going on here.
Is that how JF or FDR started the
That's how
fireside chats?
JFK did it.
Hey, maybe I was gonna say
Welcome
JFR.
back,
You
my
don't know that.
friends. I'm going to Dallas today. wish me luck.
So he went on the radio and told everyone, "Hey, I'm going to be in Dallas. I hope nothing bad happens."
Yeah, that's exactly
So like,
what
I mean, I guess like he had it coming. Like you have to expect when you're reaching out to that many people, and you tell them where you're going to be and ask them not to cause trouble. That some joker out there is going to cause trouble.
Well, hey, they should have told Murray that.
They should have told Murray that some joker is going to cause him trouble.
Yeah, he should have known when what's his name, Arthur, was like, "Hey, could you call me Joker?" And Murray should have been, "Oh shit,
this Joker,
this Joker's gonna fucking kill me, bro."
I think the sequel to Joker should be like Joker. He like invents a time machine, or maybe teams up with another Batman villain who invents him a time machine. Is like, you're gonna go to the most Joker-fied moments in history, and you're gonna go kill the president. You're gonna go kill Kennedy.
By the way, guys, this is a little bit behind the scenes, not really behind the scenes stuff, but I'm a big I would look at DCEU leaks a lot, and I had read the Joker script, especially
me too.
Yeah, and so we were watching.
I found it, and I was like, this sucks.
Yeah, because I remember like they would talk about certain big scenes, and then you know, leading up to the big one. Like we were in it was a full theater, you know, it was a full theater. This is back when we could actually watch movies, and when it started to like ramp up to it, I looked at Spencer looked back at me, and we're like, it's about to happen.
We know what's coming.
Yeah. Then
too bad there's not there. I mean, it's like, I guess now the DC, like there have been photos from the Batman set. That seems pretty cool. Is Robert Pattinson okay? I don't remember if we talked about this on pod or on stream, but it's something I've been worried about, because it's like, I remember, a while back, like, remember, like, he got
he's
COVID.
Alive.
And then like I haven't heard an update since. Like I haven't heard like, hey, Robert Pattinson is totally fine and they're back on set. Like I just heard like he got COVID and like radio silence since then. So I'm putting out a wellness check on Robert Pattinson. Someone,
Robbie,
if you're
listening to the podcast, and we know you do, please tell us.
Just message us. We're worried about you, buddy.
Yep. But if you guys didn't know what this is not a movie podcast. I don't know how many people listen to this for the first time, but this is Style and Direction, a Menswear podcast about the stuffiness. I'm Ethan M. Long.
I'm Spencer, the host.
We actually have producer Matt here, but he's not getting on mic. This isn't a joke this time. He's actually in a room listening. A room with a moose.
We won't tell you which one though, because we wouldn't want any jokers to cause.
Yeah, right
trouble.
now he's looking at us. He's doing a little mime thing. It's great stuff. This is what it would be like. Hey guys, Patreon. If you want us to get an actual studio and to move Matt over here, I don't know what music colleges there are here, but this is where your money could go to.
That'll be our stretch goal. Yeah, we're gonna buy a studio space on Sunset Boulevard.
Yeah, exactly. We're gonna buy out the rest of his tuition so he can move here permanently. But speaking about money, this is that's the topic of this episode. You guys saw the title. I haven't decided on it yet, but I know it's gonna have money in it somewhere. Capitalism, because money's everywhere. I don't know.
Because money is capitalized.
Yeah, that's right.
The title.
All the money in the world. Actually, that's kind of a good one.
One of us is gonna have to get replaced by Christopher Plummer before this episode comes out.
Yeah, one of us has to get canceled, and then the other one,
Okay, Plummer. So
vote. All shot in 11 days. Vote. 11 days, right?
Yeah. Oh wait, but the problem is the audience can't vote because it has to happen before it comes out. So I guess we're gonna have to like put out a Twitter poll or something, or Instagram poll.
Yep.
Before it comes out and be like, hey, who's Christopher Plummer gonna replace?
Exactly, and which one of us is canceled? Actually, I think I am, exactly. Right? Because I took the I am canceled. Did you take that one?
I don't know. Is that? I mean, that's just a website where it's a 50-50 shot, right?
Like, I think so. Unless it actually tells you if you said anything problematic.
You can change it by refreshing the page a couple more times. So it's like Schrodinger's cancel.
That's good. Do you like that? Okay, cool.
I do like that.
Yeah. But today, yeah, we're talking about how important money is in menswear. We're talking about being transparent with our lives. At least I am, because you guys know I have I mean, you guys have heard so many things. If you guys haven't watched
he loves being transparent.
Yeah, I'm fucking the invisible man. Actually, is that's not, I don't know if that's transparent, because transparent means
is the show. Oh, right? Wait, are we talking about the show Transparent, or are we talking about
I was talking about the technical term transparency, because like, is an invisible guy seeing like what's behind him is being transparent. But it's also like, if your skin was transparent, then you would see like bone and organs. So is it your entire being his whole transparent?
His whole thing is transparent. But is there a difference between, I mean, there's a difference between transparent and visible, right? Because you're not implying that this is the ghost, or you talking about finances is invisible. It's transparent.
Actually, I'm talking about that. We have no money. It's invisible now.
That's right.
But we decided to talk about this because, you know, we've just finished Black Friday. People are buying holiday stuff, and people always ask. I mean, we also had a stream about how we buy menswear, right? So, you know, this kind of lets us discuss that as a topic, and also maybe show you a little bit of why we do what we do, or why we approach buying the way we do. Mm-hmm. And we're also gonna have a future episode on how buying vintage in the beginning has like poisoned our taste forever. Not the subject for another time. But yeah, money's kind of important in menswear, right? Because as we talked about in the lifestyle episode, if you like menswear, you tend to like high class things, right? You tend to like, and I mean, like, very fancy food, very fancy cars, and everything.
The stuff that we like is expensive. Like that's just the bottom line.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like even for like us, right? Like Spencer and I, we're not particularly fancy car guys. No, Spencer's always wanted like a 70s like car, right? You kind of would
but it's like idea. I don't even it's
right,
like
but,
the thing is, it's like even with those, it's like it's such a time investment, and I don't know anything about cars, where even then it's like still like the idea of it is cool, but I don't know if I would actually do it, at least for a very long time.
Oh yeah, I mean, we just finished our watch episode, which in recording time, in press time, you've heard the watch episode, but it's a lot of these things tend to be, I don't know, like you get into it when everything else has stabilized, right? And right now, the thing we're kind of focusing on is menswear and some other personal stuff, which we'll get into in a second. But yeah, for right now, like we're more into clothing. We're not really concerned with Bespoke. At least I kind of am, but I don't. You know, I'm not going out of my way to buy a bunch of Bespoke. I'm not Simon Crompton. And so, you know, speaking of money, he just at least in time of recording, he did an article on Bergenberg, which is a pretty good value proposition kind of for menswear. It's something that the guys in our Discord really enjoy.
Yeah.
But you know, yeah, they make great stuff. And the comments are like, oh well, they're kind of shitting on it. I mean, Simon was a little bit like, you know, this is very like, obviously it's not the best quality, but it's still good for the price. And the comments were like, oh, we can't talk about that because that's like a dangerous thing to go down, because money and value are always like, they're in flux or whatever. You know, it's really weird. You guys should check out the comments on that. But it's kind of very clear how
Don't read the article, just read the comments.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, again, you should. Bergenberg is cool. Check it out. We're not sponsored. But yeah, money is kind of important, because I think people assume a lot of things when you're into menswear. We talked about this in the lifestyle episode a little bit. And, you know, that couldn't really be, you know, further from the truth a little, you know. I mean, so to be clear, like, I'm 25 years old, okay? I graduated college a couple of years ago. I have an MBA, and I still live at home. I'm not working in some cool-ass job. Well, I guess I kind of am. But it's not... You know, it's not enough to pay like Bespoke prices, obviously. I don't think any of us here can buy Bespoke prices. You know what I mean? And yeah, it's I don't think I've ever made enough to kind of justify a classic menswear lifestyle, or even just the clothing of it. You know, even when you look at certain things like Drake's, right? For a while, like, you know, they were kind of the go-to for a lot of people. I think what they started like $1,300 for suits, you know, and that's like a lot of money, you know, and every time we kind of get in, and every time I write about menswear, occasionally we'll get people who ask us like, oh, or ask me at least, oh, hey, have you tried a Drake's suit yet? Have you tried Pete Johnson? And I'm like, no, Because that's like, yeah, it's over $1,000 for what even some of the jackets are over $1,000, and it's not to be like, you know, dismissive of it, because I know that these are made, you know, well. We talked about with Young Chomsky, we don't really know exactly where these things are, you know, they're Italian made stuff, but it's not, we're not scoffing at it. It's just like I literally can't afford it, you know. And
it's just like, it's we for a lot of the brands that we really like and admire, we kind of just have to do window shopping, or, you know, as we've done before, get a cheaper version of that.
Yeah, a lot of it we'll get into later about how to kind of approach it with a budget. And I hate talking about that because I don't really like budget. I like, you know, that kind of budget mindset. I think that you should definitely save up and buy what you like. I think that to preface this whole thing, you know, we're not saying to cheap out on anything, because Spencer and I both have quality things. I mean, we talked about Drake's on the Patreon bonus episode. You know, we do own things that we like, but it's, you know, it's important to be a little bit smart about it, you know. And again, like
we have it's like, well, I don't know about so like, yeah, I like all the clothes in my closet for the most part, except the things that I don't and want to sell.
Wait, you're telling me you like what you like and you hate what you don't like?
Exactly.
Okay.
But for the most part, I like everything in my closet. But there's a couple like really nice pieces from brands like Drake's or whatever. But a lot of it, which again I still like, is like padded out with like a lot more, you know, less expensive, either vintage or, you know, just cheaper
like Uniqlo,
brands. Yeah, exactly.
You know, or secondhand stuff. Yeah, we'll get into that, because, you know, I want to also stress, you know, I'm sure a lot of people listening to the podcast are, you know, older than us or more established in their career. You know, Spencer and I have, maybe fortunately, and you know, and MJ and Matt here, we kind of got into this from a younger age. And, you know, especially younger in our lifestyle, because, you know, as you guys know, if you guys watched the stream on the 3 anniversary, like, I graduated college or you know, 2015, and then I kind of got into menswear, and I got a menswear job, but menswear jobs don't make a lot of money, I think, and like in the kind of grand scheme of things, unless, you know, you get like a lot of sales stuff. I mean, in general, it's going to be sales, right? Like that's kind of where you get all your stuff. And
because it's like, you know, you're still
commission.
Working for like a small company, like, you know,
exactly.
even if you're working for like a really cool menswear shop, it's not like you're working for like Macy's or Ralph Lauren in a corporate setting. Right. So even if you do have like a slightly higher up or corporate position within this company, it's still not going to be.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe these people are all paid like crazy amounts of money. But
I do think
my perception is
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's accurate. I mean, as a guy who's worked in it, I mean, and even Matt can also attest, you know, working at Brooks Brothers and everything. But, you know, I think even Ethan Newton, I think I said this in that episode where I kind of did like a profile on him or whatever, that he said that if you want to make a lot of money, don't work in menswear. You know what I mean? Like, you know, and most of menswear, you kind of, you know, you're pretty lucky. But I think Spencer and I are pretty aware of our surroundings. You know, again, Spencer's still in school. You know, he works a part-time job. I'm very blessed. I mean, the whole summer I was unemployed, you know. I still had a couple of side hustle stuff where I do social media, thankfully, and I used that money to pay for John's. I used my unemployment to pay for bills, because I still pay for bills. I pay for, like, you know, my car. And this is, again, me being transparent. Last year, God, it's only been a year? That's crazy. But last year I was in a pretty big car accident where my car was totaled, you know. And, of course, a new car, you know, $20,000 or whatever it is. I could have maybe gotten a used car, but, you know, I did buy a used car. I did buy a used car.
But it was like a recent used, right? It was
it was pretty good. It didn't have that much gas mileage on it, which was a good deal on it. But, you know, that's still a lot of, you know, money to pay each month. You know, you still got like your phone bill, car insurance, internet stuff, you know, and everything.
But the big thing is we don't have to pay rent.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, we still, yeah. But, and rent, you know, if you're depending, well, I was going to say I was listening to a podcast recently where a guy was talking about his career in menswear and style. I haven't really heard of this guy, but it's on Blamo. Check it out. Good stuff. He was saying that when, you know, he moved back to New York and he got a job, he got a place for $500 a month. And I'm like, that's crazy, man. That's so cheap. You know, this is probably like, you know, maybe 90s or something, or maybe early 2000s. But, you know, for us, you know, baseline is like $1,000, in SoCal, and then variations thereof, depending on how much you want to drive. Also, let's not forget about gas. You know what I mean? Like, gas is very expensive.
Exactly. And, like, the issue is, we'd both, it would be nice to live on our own. It would be nice not to live at home, but then we would be living, like, paycheck to paycheck, if that. Yeah. Because the other issue is a lot of our friend group lives and works, like, in different places in Southern California. So we can't get like 5 or like 3 or 4 friends together and be like, okay, we're gonna find a place here because one person works here, one person works here, whatever.
Yeah,
it's tough.
Yeah, I mean, to be not, this is not transparent. You guys should know this by now, but Spencer and I live like 50 miles apart. Mm-hmm. He goes to school in the Orange County area. My current job, I work from home right now. I'm only part-time because again, I was unemployed. It was tough, guys. It was really tough this whole summer. I'm sure if Matt and Spencer know how hard it was for me to find a job, even after going to college and everything. But I mean, my job would have been right now if I was working in person for the company. It would probably be in downtown or West LA or something like that, and that doesn't really work out with someone who has to go to school in Orange County. That doesn't make any sense. And so, yeah, I mean, we're very blessed to be able to live at home without kind of the pressure of moving out. I think our parents are pretty good at understanding our situation a little bit. I mean, I got Asian parents. It kind of goes both ways, where it's all like, I've talked to my friend Adam about this, where it goes like, immigrant parents or Asian parents will be like, oh, we can take care of you forever, but also like, fuck you should be on your own because you're an American citizen and this is what we moved to America for. You got to be the American dream and everything. So there's a little bit of that, at least on my background. I don't know if my mom listens to this, but she's probably like nodding her head. But yeah, it's not like it's not like we aren't trying to be independent. But I think it's important for people to realize this about us because that's why I literally don't buy Bespoke shirts all the time, right? I mean, I've tried to now, not just to be against fast fashion, but also to kind of support the artisans I own. But even then, like, I try and get good quality items when I can. But I'm not gonna be crazy, I still have a savings account, if something happens. Luckily that worked out for my car and everything. But yeah, we're not like. We're not taking advantage of living at home. We're not going to be like, all of this is pure profit, baby. I'm going to buy a fucking $2,000 Bespoke suit. And even then, Bespoke's not $2,000. It's like $2,500 at least. But yeah. And it's also important to realize that Spencer and I, Spencer's still in school. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't make any sense for him to kind of do anything crazy, right? So
no, yeah, and it's like so I'm still getting my degree, so an actual career is still a little ways off for me. Which is a lot of fun.
And you changed your major
with the economy.
Too?
Well, yeah, when I transferred, I changed my major from history to journalism. Or no, I changed that a while ago. I was thinking about changing again just to communications, but my college wouldn't let me.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Well, no, well they said it's like, well, you can, but then you'd have to like start over, and I'm like, really? The communications, like with an emphasis in journalism degree, is that much different than a general communications degree that I would have to basically start school over?
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, hey, that kind of happened to me, right?
Yeah, so I chose not to do that. But yeah, so it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, for me, right, I got an undergrad in accounting, and for those of you who don't know, I really hated it. I had an internship. I did taxes. I literally worked the Monday after school came out until the Friday before we went back to school. This is in between my sophomore and junior year. And my junior year turned out to be my senior year because I was just such a good student that I finished early. But I had this really crazy, quarter life crisis where I was like, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. I was fucking like 18, 19 years old. And so I got like an MBA in marketing because if I were to start and get a marketing degree, I would have to start over basically, or at least add a year and a half, almost 2 years to my degree. And, when you're paying for college, you got a little bit of assistance, and a lot of your college is based on, the credits you're taking and the scholarships that you get, adding, more of that doesn't really make sense. You might as well save the extra year, right? Just finish. But yeah, I got an MBA in marketing, and then I started to work at Ascot Chang in social media. And you guys probably already know this, but working social media marketing, whatever, copywriting in a niche industry is not that attractive to other jobs when you're trying to move out of it. I know a lot of menswear guys kind of go into menswear from other industries. I think I can only speak for myself here, but I'm pretty sure it's hard to move from menswear somewhere else. Especially, you know, when you if sales is not like your pathway, right? And you don't want to go into buying or whatever. I love my job, and luckily, you know, my current job kind of saw the benefits of what I had done. Obviously, I've tried my best to, you know, spin that way in my interviews and everything. I definitely think the skills are transferable, but it's still hard. You know what I mean? Like if I had gotten like an agency job, you know, a generic one, maybe I've had a menswear account or something under my belt, you know, along with some other stuff might have been easier. But the reason I'm sharing this is just to show you like how hard it is, even for people with college degrees, to kind of, you know, make money, right? And so right now I'm working in something that's not menswear, and so it definitely feels like Spencer, like kind of starting over in a sense, you know, doing a new pathway, working from the bottom. And again, luckily I'm still at home, and I still have enough to like buy clothes every now and again, but it's all with a grain of salt. It's all tastefully done. Like we're not crazy here. You might see us buy a couple of stuff, but you know, we'll get into what we do.
I mean, I make impulsive decisions, but
of course,
I still get stressed. I still get stressed out usually when I spend like a large amount of money.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
so yeah. I try not to do it too much.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be something that you make sure that you're gonna wear, and everything. And even then, like a ring jacket. I've had years of lusting after a rain jacket. You know, it's like when I first bought my first Drake's tie. It's like, oh man, it's like 100. I mean, back then 100, like $150, right, or whatever it was. And it's like, oh, I don't know. But at the back of my head, I'm like, nope. I know I've wanted to have this for a long time, and so I bought it. You know, and I understand that might not be everybody here, but you know, there's that kind of line where at a certain point you're gonna have to kind of bite the bullet if it's something that you like. You know. And but also budget yourself. Like we're not advocating to be crazy here. You know, we're definitely maximalists, but yeah. Do we see money in our future?
No. Yeah, like I said, I'm still a journalism major. I don't know. No. I don't know if I don't think I want to be a journalist at this point, just because the industry is not very good.
You're telling me?
Believe it or not. And also, the things for the economy aren't looking good. Nope. I'm worried a little bit about next year. I'm worried about what's going to happen next year. So, you know, the futures. I don't need sunglasses for the future, is what I'm saying. It's not very bright.
I hate it. That was bad. I hate it. Matt's giving us a thumbs up. No, I you know, it's kind of, I'm not, Spencer and I think are both kind of pessimists in a sense. I don't think about the future that much because I don't even know what's going to happen. Like I'm different in that regard where like, I think I'm just so bogged down. And again, like, it is tough. Like I didn't even think I was going to get a job after, you know, because of COVID closing my store for a little bit and you know, kind of being furloughed and trying to search for something new. It was pretty tough. I didn't even think I'd be where I am today, and I'm glad that we were able to do the Patreon. And also, I mean, we said this before, the Patreon is not meant for us to make money off of, right? This is kind of just us reinvesting in it, making it a great experience. And so yeah, I mean, things are definitely dying. The economy is not looking good, and I think this is also might be why we kind of have this kind of disconnect between us. And when I say us, I just mean me and Spencer. I don't know about the rest of the Patreon people, the Discord guys, but there's always going to be that disconnect between the lives that we lead and the lifestyle of menswear enthusiasts that we typically see. You know, I literally can't imagine, like Spencer and I, we don't eat a lot of fancy food very often. We don't, I mean, we also admittedly, we don't do that. We just don't, you know, we're not into that, but like, you know,
it's like, I mean, it's like our friend group, and it's like, you know, this is not just like, you know, Ethan and all of our cheapo friends, but I don't know. I don't hang out with a lot of people who go to fancy restaurants. The only time I go, like, you know, we like family dinners.
Yeah, and
like
I mean,
birthday dinners.
This
and
is
stuff.
okay. This
but
might be
that hasn't happened in a bit.
Yeah, this might be a dig at ourselves, but it's kind of like, I mean, we've eaten.
Well, no, as I was saying, it's not just our core friend group. My other friends don't really.
Well, I was gonna say, I'm not trying to dig at us, but I mean, we have eaten our share of IHOP and Norms, so.
Oh, gotta love it though.
Gotta love it. I mean, yeah, that's just kind of like the life that we kind of like, we kind of lead, and a lot of us, contrary to people on our Patreon who, like Jason has been working at his shop for a while. He makes enough to live on his own in New York. Like a lot of our friends also live at home still. They're either still in college or they're at the very, very early stages of their career, where again, living in LA is very expensive. You got to drive everywhere. It makes sense to stay at home, and it's not, we're not living like Spartan lives again, but we still, we're able to enjoy it, but we also know, and this is a very important thing that, I think we kind of, I don't know if we talked about this with Young Chomsky, but you can't really save your way to being rich. That's a very big fallacy. And we kind of realize that. So, I'll be glad to revisit this topic when Spencer and I kind of have, a full-time career and we're kind of in it, you know what I mean? But we're not there yet. We're not there yet. And, but luckily we're still able to, enjoy clothing and buy it every once in a while. I've done social media on the side. I've done, a little bit of writing for, what's it called? Style Forum and everything that, when you get paid from that, it's like, oh, cool, I can buy like a tie, you know what I mean? And the rest of my money can still go to my phone payment or whatever.
I do that too, but it's like usually with like selling pieces of clothing.
Oh, that's
like,
100%.
Okay, the clothes become clothes,
Yeah.
Like I'm getting ready to list a bunch of like random, like my, I guess early access, my Spear and McKay chinos and like random shit like that. I'm gonna list it on like Facebook Marketplace or Let Go or whatever.
And I've done that too.
The money for that is going to go to more clothes. I don't know what it's going to be, but it's going to be in an envelope.
Yeah, but that's kind of like what everyone kind of recommends, right? Like one in, one out or whatever like that. I've sold a lot of money. I've sold a couple of clothes to Jay and MJ, and I definitely take a loss on it. But it's like, at like when you've been collecting clothes for a long time, it doesn't really matter. Like you can just sell it. Like it doesn't.
It's just not. Hey, listen. Sometimes you just need liquid cash, and that's one way to do it.
Gotta be liquid, baby. Oh, guys, my assets are frozen because I have dumped all of my cash into my pool and froze it. That's 30 Rock. That's Tracy Morgan. Thank you, Matt. But yeah, it's kind of like this kind of weird thing where I recognize that, right? So I know that when I make enough to not only, well, I right now I don't make enough to support rent and car and like in gas, right? Like all together. Again, I would probably be living on a very, very small amount, and I know people do that. But I know that eventually, hopefully, fingers crossed, if things work out in the future, I'll be able to, pay for my rent and my car and my phone and all the other great bills that adults have to pay, and have money left over to also buy groceries. You know what I mean? Oh, that's another thing. We get to eat food. Spencer and I typically eat at home a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but that's kind of our background here. But yeah, so if we also talk about side hustles and everything. That's kind of a good way. Not something. Get ready for the next episode because we're going to talk about side hustles and influencer culture. That's going to be a big one. But we're not really interested in like pursuing it that way. At least for me, I like to have like a very standard job and then have time. After to do stuff.
I don't like having to take work home, and unfortunately, since I'm working from home.
Yeah.
I have to. But if possible, I would love to have a job where you just clock in, clock out, and you don't have to think about it until the next day. That's, I think, my ideal job.
Yeah, that's kind of. I was gonna say that's definitely changing.
Yeah, I don't think that type of job exists anymore, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I would love to have a job like that.
I like being productive. I don't mind working. It's more so, again, I've never had a job that has been able to keep me independent. You know what I mean? Like during college, I worked retail, and then I also worked on campus. It was tough. That's when I first started the blog. You guys didn't see it, but I was very unhappy. I lost a relationship kind of over that because I was working constantly. And so yeah, I don't forgive me if we don't sound entirely positive about the future, but Spencer and I, we're not the worst ones out there, but we definitely know that until we get there, it's gonna be an uphill battle. And maybe then once we get there, we'll be able to talk about like a Drake's like garment or something. I don't know. But yeah, so now that's given you a little bit of a background on us, first half of the show, let's talk about if money is important for good style. And the short thing is it's complicated because I mean, in generally speaking, no. I mean, well, yes, it's no, but yes, because
okay, you can have good style without spending good money, but like as an example, like occasionally we'll get messages like either personally or on the Instagram like the Instagram for the podcast, and someone's like, "Hi, I'm a college student or I'm a high school student, and I love the way you dress. How can I do this with like this budget, without spending more than like $100 on a jacket or like $100 on an outfit?" And a lot of times it's not really possible to dress exactly how we do.
There's a lot
at that budget.
Yeah, there's a lot of like luck.
And not to be elitist, but it's just like you can't get a lot of the stuff we like shopping at malls or exclusively shopping at like Goodwill or
and
whatever.
We talk about this in the lifestyle episode too. It also depends on your hobbies, because I know Spencer and I like to play video games now because also we've kind of calmed down in our buying, right? Now it's more like one or two off impulse buys now, as opposed to like, oh, I gotta get a blue jacket, gotta get the gray sweater, gotta get the roll neck and everything.
Yeah, I mean, like before, like when we were going to flea markets, like I was taking out money every month. That was like, this is my clothing budget, whatever.
Yeah, but you didn't buy video games and shit. You didn't do any of that. Yeah. I mean, for me, like, so again,
I don't know. I'll say I have been buying a lot more entertainment stuff since we've been stuck at home, because again.
Oh, obviously, no. I mean, I get it. But I was gonna say, when I was in college, right? Like, this might be bad. I mean, first off, I was very young and I didn't have very many friends, and I was buying vintage clothing, so I don't think that helped. But it was like, all my friends, they would buy like, the video games. They would, go out. I intentionally did not do those things because I wanted to buy clothes. Even, until kind of recently, buying Squadrons, buying all these other Xbox games, buying a fucking microphone, doing all this kind of like, I never even thought of that before because I knew I wanted clothes, right? So that's something that kind of is a very, something to understand about me, Spencer and I, until very recently, our lives were like entirely clothes. And that is not something that we could recommend to people. Okay. Like, I think when people are like, oh yeah, I got this much money, like, oh, you could add more to that if you just didn't eat anything else other than like rice and chicken at home, which is what I typically do. Again, like I said, I don't really go out to eat. And when we do, it's usually like kind of quick food, boba, popcorn, chicken, whatever.
Yeah. Quick bite.
Yeah, exactly. QBs. But yeah, so the practical the fact of the matter is that no, you don't have to always spend a lot of money, but the good shit always costs good money. It's kind of like it's kind of the thing here, right? Because, we've talked about this.
I mean, and also there are styles that aren't classic menswear that do lend themselves better to, like, not spending a whole lot on it.
Yeah.
You can do it, but again, we're specifically talking about like classic menswear, the stuff that like we're into.
Yeah, and even like, this, details matter, right? And you'll notice that Spencer and I, we're not wearing a Uniqlo sport coat, even though a Uniqlo sport coat can be 100% organic material, cotton, linen, whatever. It could be soft shouldered, but you're not gonna, there's no canvas in it at all. It's not half canvas, so it's not going to lay the same way. You're not going to have 3-roll 2. You're not going to have the extended shoulders, which is all fine. But it's like, once you get those details in your mind, it's like, oh, I literally can't get that unless I buy something, unless I buy the thing, right? Get Spear, Spear and McKay, or you buy Drake's, or you buy a ring jacket or whatever, right? It's just a matter that cheap places like the mall don't have the details that we want, and especially vintage too, right? Like, yeah, you could definitely find a vintage gray the crew neck sweater on eBay, but if you want it to have shorter length, wider ribbing, it's going to be rarer, and rarer things tend to cost more. Rarer than rare.
Yeah, I mean, it's like even the vintage, like, you know, we talk about, you know, we bought a lot of vintage, like in high school and early college, whatever.
Yep.
And some people who maybe aren't in the quote unquote vintage scene might assume that means going to Goodwills or small antique shops, but it's really hard to find good stuff at those places. What we usually had to go to, like we became friends with like people who owned more curated vintage shops, and those are expensive too.
Yeah,
I mean, like less expensive than, like, obviously it's less expensive than buying like a new suit. You can get something pretty good for, like, you know, you could get something like very rare and desirable in the vintage community for like, I don't know, like $600.
Right.
But that's still not like spending $20 on a sport coat or anything like that.
I think that's a big misconception people have. And I mean, that's why I built up such a big, you know, vintage wardrobe as a kid. Excuse me, take a shot. I did eat right before this. And so, you know, I didn't buy a lot of things that high school kids or college kids would buy, because I was, you know, saving up every time we got to see Benny or go to, you know, Joyride Vintage, like, oh cool, they've got like a vintage 30s 40s suit. And again, 30s and 40s is more expensive than 60s because it's rarer, it's got a lot more details, the lapels that we like. Again, we're spoiled by vintage. But yeah, you know, that's kind of how we did it. And for a while, you know, we kind of incorporated that with modern stuff. You know, Spencer would wear, you know, like a 50s jacket with, like, you know, polo RLs or whatever, you know. I know for me, I like my first navy jacket was like a 40s one that was like $100, right? And yeah, so if you're into those details, you're gonna have to pay for it, you know, whether it's modern, whether it's, you know, like we talk about like why we like Drakes, and it's not just about, oh yeah, Vanda fine clothing ties are good, the Notary ties are good, like we're not denying that, you know, but it's like the tie I'm wearing right now is just kind of fun, you know, green, red, and orange foulard tie that looks, I'm pretty sure I've had a 30s tie that looks like this, but I can't find a tie that looks like, you know, it's I'm not a big fan of like Macclesfield ties or more straightforward geometric or foulard ties. So when it comes down to, like, okay, Drake's makes that, I'm gonna have to buy it, and I'm gonna have to shell it out. And we don't see it as like luxury. It's more like we're buying exactly what we want. And yeah, you know, and again, hey, maybe the rich guys out there, or the guys who can afford to do this on the regular, think of it that way also. I can't assume what they think, but I know for me, I'm definitely lucky, and it's like a big thing. I'm like cradling it in the webcam right now, but it's like, you know, this was a very careful purchase that I've wanted, you know. So yeah, unless
because it's like, we'll get us going back to the luxury thing. We're not the kind of people that would be sold if someone said, I want to sell you this suit. It's like the best made suit possible. It's like very luxurious. The cloth is great. We have to see it. Like, it's all based on how it looks. Yeah, aesthetics. Right? Like, you know, obviously we still care about construction and everything. But that's not. But that's where that's where
taste comes in, right? That's why details matter. That's what sets us apart. Like, you know, you could have a really great 2-button. I say great, like I'm talking about like made, well made, like 2-button suit, normal suit, platform pants. That's great. But if it's not 3-roll 2 and it's exactly what we want, you know, we're not gonna buy it, you know. And we wouldn't care even if we got like the same amount of construction. If we got that for $100, it's great. If we had to save up and buy it, that's what we have to do too. You know what I mean? Like, it's all about in pursuit of like exactly what we want. And also in general, you know, to add the whole thing of you can't dress like us easily, you have to be lucky. You gotta find like, you know, like a lot of our stuff, if it's not curated, we found it on eBay and we like pounced on it immediately, or we offered it up, you know. We're at the flea market, we find the stuff, right? Like, I have found like I got a brown double rider leather jacket at the Dapper Day Expo for $250, right? Typically vintage leather jackets from the 40s are usually $300 to $500, you know, depending on condition, depending on age. I got this one, it was just listed like that, $250. They're in my size, in front of me, great condition, no holes anywhere. It's crazy, right? Like, and I can't, if someone would say, oh, where can I get one? I'm like, first off, I can't tell you where to get one. And number two, like, if you do find it, it might not be the same price. And it's not being elitist. It's just, you know, I think, again, because Spencer and I, you know, we got into this in high school, we kind of kept our eyes open everywhere we could, right? We're constantly, or at least before, on Etsy, on eBay, on the Facebook groups, you know, Fedora Lounge classifieds every once in a while, you know, DMing, you know, asking Benny or whatever, like, hey, if you find one of these, like, you find a vintage Argyle sweater, let me know, right? Like, because I am looking for that kind of thing. And so, yeah, you really got to be lucky. And I think that a lot of guys out there who, you know, may not be in the same style as we are, but who approach it perhaps the same way, are the same, you know, do it with like Grailed, right? Or archive sales, you know, Yahoo Japan auctions. I think there's an article that our friend, Komojo Marco did about, like, you know, buying, reselling like Japanese stuff for the Wall Street Journal. And, you know, it's not really lucky if you're always looking for it, right? Like, you got to kind of create the luck there. And that's kind of like how we were able to kind of get some of the cool stuff. But you also have to be okay with approximating things. Now, this is kind of a big deal. You know, you've heard us talk about, you know, Spear and McKay. You've heard us talk about like vintage Ivy. And even though those aren't exactly like, oh, the Sartoria Dalcuore stuff, in broad strokes, 3-roll-2 soft shoulders with a wider lapel, that's how you get it, right?
Well, because it's like, you know, this is going back to getting into fashion through vintage menswear is, you know, and I'm not saying that we have some like superpower, because a lot of people can do this, but when we see things that designers are making, we like see the references too.
Right.
Like we say, it's like, okay, this is what it's referencing. And usually, like in my case, I'm like, okay, I see what this is referencing. Where can I get the original? Like, I don't want, you know, a copy or a remake or reimagining. I just want the original.
Right, yeah. You know, it's like, you know, if you're into like the husbands thing, I'm not saying it's impossible. You could probably find like a 70s jacket that looks just like it, right? You know, or at least similar in the cut, right? Like, obviously there's a lot of things that you can't approximate and change up, right? Like a 70s belt back or even a modern belt back may not be the same as a 30s belt back, right? But if you like just having a belt back in general, maybe it's okay to approximate it, you know, and that's what Spencer has done. It's speaking of approximating vintage, right, Spencer?
Yeah, because it's like I have most of my belt back jackets are 70s to 30s, because belt backs are really hard to find and really expensive, and especially in like slightly larger sizes.
Early ones,
so they're not a lot in my price range, but I found a bunch of good like 70s to 30s, usually all wool, like, you know, good button stance and stuff, and they don't look the same as 30s jackets, but I'm still happy with them.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, for me, until I started buying Spear McKay, and at least for the beginning part, Spear McKay didn't have a Neapolitan cut, right? Like, for like, you know, this fairly recent, I would buy like, you know, 60s sack jackets because, you know, they had the kind of look that I wanted. And I have a 70s Brooks sack jacket that is, a lot of people have asked me if it's ring jacket, because it kind of has like a fuller sleeve head. It's soft shoulders. It has like a wider lapel because it's 70s and not like 60s, you know, Mad Men era kind of thing. And it looks very good. And it approximates exactly what I want. Obviously, when you get to it, the cut's a little bit too full. There's a hook vent instead of side vents. You know, there's a lot of that stuff going on that make it different. But for my purposes, it definitely approximated kind of, you know, pretty well. And that's why we try and use vintage as much as possible to approximate things. And of course, it's the opposite way too. I mean, Spencer has bought reproduction stuff to get like kind of vintage Milsurp vintage workwear that, if we found it, not only in his size, but if we found it at all, it would be very expensive. You know.
Yeah.
Like, I know Spencer, or at least a couple of our friends, like Andy or whoever, like they wanted like the P43 or whatever whatever my fucking cargo pants are with the side hip pockets. Yeah, I got those for pretty cheap. We'll get into, you know, a couple of the homie stuff later, but, you know, our friends wanted that. I got it as a one-off because it was just right place, right time. So Bronson or a couple of other World War II reproduction places have made something like that, and they buy it, and they're cheaper. Oh, definitely. I mean, even based on what I paid for them.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like, as I've said before, I always, you know, would prefer like
vintage,
the original vintage, but yeah, with stuff like specifically military surplus, where it's like, you know, we still have the original patterns because they're, you know, they're fucking government contracts and stuff like that.
Exactly.
You know, you can like, you know, I got a pair of frog skin HBT, like, you know, camo, like World War II style cargo pants with a big bellow pocket.
Yep.
And I paid, I think, $60 for those. And if I were to buy original, they would maybe be like 800 or something like that.
Yeah, insane.
You know, crazy expensive.
Yeah. So yeah, you got to be okay with approximating things, but also know what you're getting to, because our friend Andy, early on, before he would start buying vintage like we did, he would say, "Hey guys, I saw this chore coat at Uniqlo. It's a navy chore coat. Should I buy it?" And I'm like, "Well, that one has stretch, and I don't like buying polyester stuff, not just because of microplastics, but it also just doesn't feel right." And we was like, honestly, you could, $40, you could probably find a vintage chore coat. Just hunt, go on eBay, or even go come to the flea market and find one that doesn't have the paint stains or the holes in it, and you could probably find it, and we've done that before, and so or you find, like, I think Uniqlo did like a type 2 or whatever, also kind of like a stretch salvage or something like that. It's like, oh well, I mean, that's fine, but maybe try like find like a vintage 90s one. It works both ways, right? It also, you're not supporting fast fashion in a sense. You're trying to kind of keep the landfill down or whatever. But I like buying stuff with history. Spencer and I also think that buying that kind of stuff is cooler, obviously. But yeah, but that's not saying you shouldn't avoid Uniqlo, because a lot of our basics are from there. I have a couple of like 100% cotton sweaters or sweatshirts from
turtlenecks. Always great.
Yeah, our base layer stuff, our socks. We don't shop there for everything, because again, this whole thing is you can't really cheat style. But style sometimes can just be a fun thing that you found worn with other basic things that you got at the mall, right? I mean, like starting out, right? And I mean, I've worn like a fun vintage sports shirt, but with like Uniqlo wide leg pants, right? And I think that's totally fine. So like a lot of our basic stuff and a couple of one-off interesting things that we can't really find, like those wide leg Uniqlo ones. I don't think very many places make those. I think like the drawstring,
like
very wide,
the easy pant.
The easy pants, yeah. Obviously those are a approximation of like higher fashion or luxury kind of stuff. I'm not super into that. Maybe like 18 East, but then 18 East is expensive. It's also, the drops aren't that, like, they're not accessible because they're by design, they're like a streetwear drop. There's not very many in circulation to begin with, right? And apparently 18 East is not very great with inseam lengths, but for Spencer and I, this Uniqlo one is a good gateway to that kind of thing. And then eventually, this is kind of speaking on a grander subject here, but is our hope that once we experiment with that, then we're like, okay, now we know we like that style of pant, we can try something new in the future, and then pass on our pants to our friends who aren't as as far into their journey as we are, right? But yeah, don't be afraid to go to Uniqlo. Don't do it too much.
Don't be afraid.
But, and of course, basics at flea markets are the cheaper way to do flea markets, right? Chore coats, fatigue shirts.
Yeah, we've taken a bunch of our non-menswear, fashion clothes horse friends to flea markets, and they they bring $50 and leave with a couple cool jackets or something like that, and it's again, they're not like super into clothes, but you don't have to spend at flea markets are great. I really like flea markets.
Oh yeah, I think that's just kind of like the little cheat that we've kind of discovered over the past 2 years or so.
You find there's like a lot of like more expensive sellers that have like the really cool old workwear and military surplus stuff. But if you're not as into that, if you finding a bunch of really cool clothes for dirt cheap, then go to your local flea market.
Absolutely. Again, and learning about approximations are great. Like 80s OCBDs, if you can find them, without the Polo Ralph Lauren logo, and you can make sure that they're 100% cotton. That's a good way to kind of build, build a shirt wardrobe. Obviously not everyone can get, bespoke shirts, and we're gonna get to that in a second. But all of my OCBDs are secondhand, and I can't have spent more than $40 on them. They're all vintage, all in decent condition, and it's like I said, Spencer and I are maximalists, which is why we're able to kind of have different outfits seemingly all the time, but we try not to spend too much per item. And that kind of keeps it good, keeps us to keep buying stuff, in the future. Because like if we spent like $150 on one, which I mean, Mercer and Sons, I've heard, makes some of the greatest OCBDs, right? But buying one of those from their very old website prevents us from buying more OCBDs, right? Like I personally, I would rather have, I've said this before, but good, like university stripe, plain white, whatever, each for like $20, all decently made, all 100% cotton, all good quality, instead of one really, really fantastic one, because they're kind of the, value is kind of the same for me in a sense, right? Go ahead.
I will, I was gonna say, I think because we're kind of nearing the end, and I think our last piece of advice would be menswear and clothing. I like to think of it as a social hobby, and you should too. Make friends because they can give you discounts.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so one thing that you guys probably don't have, and this is the most arrogant thing I would say, is the clout that we have. And that can be, again, it's led to some great friendships and everything, but obviously through writing this blog and Spencer being along there with me, for the past like 5, almost 6 years, we've made a lot of friends, not just, like I said, vintage dealers. We've got, we've made friends with people who work at certain brands, or working at the stores like the Bloke and then the Armory and everything, Drake's. We've also had a great friend who does his own, like, we have a couple of friends who had made-to-measure businesses, Natty Adams and Atelier Fugue. And so I'm not saying that we don't parlay this. These are people that we've genuinely hung out with. Like Dave is a real friend of ours of Atelier Fugue, right? We've hung out with Natty Adams, the guys who used to work at Drake's were our literal friends, at least to hanging out with, colloquially and everything. And that's not something that you should get into menswear for, as a caveat to what Spencer said, but it helps when you're into it because, if they do give you a discount, that's cool. We never ask for it. We're not here to do that. We're not here to like, oh, hey, give us a free thing and we'll review you. We're not like that. But it's, same thing with me, right? Like if, a friend can ask me, hey, dude, I need some pictures for my LinkedIn. Can you take some? I'm like, yeah, of course. Like it doesn't, like I can throw you that, it's not that big a deal. Like, say if a friend is like, hey, dude, take like 10% off or whatever, it's like, oh, well, that's very nice of you. Even with vintage dealers, I think vintage dealers might be the best way to do it because obviously brands are a little bit more corporate and, that's harder. I am totally fine not having a discount at the Armory because that's like, not only because it's still pretty expensive, but that's a lot to ask, and we're not asking for that. But like a vintage guy, who
if you're talking to a guy at the flea market who sets his own prices and his he's the only one selling the clothes, he can decide how much everything costs on the moment.
Yeah, like my Sawtooth shirt, the pink plaid one from our good friend Garrett, Western Gifts. We have, we never asked him for this in the beginning. This is like a friendship that's cultivated over like a year or so, right? Like we would see him once in a while. We check up on him. We've been to Zebulon, his own thing, for a couple times, and like I was there. Hey, look, that's a cool Sawtooth, and he was like, yeah, you can have it for like $20, man. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I'm sure they also know that it's all marketing, right? Like if you give us a discount, we're probably gonna buy it, right? Like that's just like eBay does that now. Like if they know that you're watching it, they'll be like, hey, well, free shipping or something, right? But yeah, that typically is kind of like one way that we've kind of built stuff, right? Like the World War II pants, the HPT cargo pants that I talked about. Like this is a weird story. I'm not sure if I've told this on stream yet, but we were at the store that was closing. Like I guess they were moving to a new location. They're clearing out the whole factory. What do you call it? The warehouse, whatever. And it was a lot of like 50s to 70s stuff. Nothing super crazy. Maybe a couple of like work shirts. Maybe a couple of like denim jackets, whatever. A lot of OG 107 stuff like that. And I found these World War II pants. And I know because they have the 10-star buttons on them, the side, the hip pockets, wide leg. I'm like, oh shit. And I brought them up to her, and she goes, oh, that wasn't supposed to be out there. Like she was like, oh, these are like, I actually was supposed to like take all the good shit and because like she has like personal clients, right? Like Japanese people, hardcore milsurp workwear guys, and luckily our friend was friends with her, and she's like, okay, fuck it, it's like $120, just have it. And I'm like, very nice, and they're like,
yeah, he said that, and then she said that'll be $300.
Yeah, she was, never mind. But yeah, that's like, it's stuff like that which you can't manufacture, right? Like these are all super lucky. It's the same thing with like my film cameras. Like I got lucky finding them on eBay. This is not like a relationship thing, but it's about like being as involved as possible, and when the good thing happens, you just kind of got to take advantage of it. And then speaking of like the good stuff, right? Like sometimes in terms of the actual like classic menswear stuff, we've gotten pretty lucky on that. Like I remember I've been friends with Chris Gums of Drake's, right? Like we've met him at a couple of trunk shows. Obviously it helps that I've written a blog that's not sponsored, but I have, you guys know that we're very favorable to Drake's, especially the 2018 2019 era. Not a big fan of that fucking integral collar, am I right, guys? I bought a couple of ties from their sample sale, and then like Chris, when he came over, he's like, "Hey, by the way, I threw one extra one in there. It's no worries." I'm like, "Oh, that's very nice of you. It's very cool, right?" When I worked at Ascot Chang, and we can get into this part a little bit, but I think that's important for you guys to know that when you work in the industry, the homie discounts happen way more often. Okay, like that's you look at the guys who work at Drake's, they're probably I don't know if they got free stuff, but I'm sure the employee discount at Drake's is pretty good for them to wear it, especially if you have to wear it to work, right? And if it's good stuff, you'll probably wear it outside of work, right? And especially for me, right, Ascot Chang, I wasn't required to wear Ascot Chang when I was there. Of course, if they asked me who made the stuff, I would just say, hey, we can actually make this for you because we are bespoke. We can do whatever you want, right? But when over my time when I worked there, I got a couple of shirts, bespoke shirts that I got, that's like the year bonus thank you or whatever. I got that bespoke suit from Ascot Chang, which I've written about, which is one of the best suits I own. And I definitely could not afford it otherwise. A suit from Ascot Chang is $2,500 from Holland and Cherry Chris Bear. Actually, I'm not sure if the prices have gone up due to COVID and closures and everything. But like bespoke shirts, about 200, almost $250, stuff like that. And again, I would definitely have commissioned it in the future whenever I got that cool job that lets me do that on the fly. But when I worked there, I was able to do it. I was able to get those shirts, and it's been great. We've gotten like Stubbs and Wooten slippers for free because they just gave it to us, and we do wear them. Unfortunately, mine are. I looked back at them now. I finally looked at the size. They're 7.5. So I am not wrong in being like, oh, I thought I got the right size, because I should have got like an 8 in retrospect. But like when I compared it to like a 7, I was like, oh, 7's too small. 7.5 is, I thought, would be correct. But yeah, we got those. Again, our friend Dave at Atelier Few, Spencer hasn't taken advantage of it, although I don't know if Dave is, if you've talked to Dave enough for it. But for me, at least, when I was first writing about cotton suits, he gave me like $100 off, like a custom suit, and it's been great. And led me to commission another one from him, and 2 more that we're currently waiting on. But stuff like that discounts not only help us improve our wardrobe, but it actually gets us to that kind of stage where like, okay, that's what a custom half canvas garment is going to be like on us, right? What that whole process is like, because Spencer has
if we want to it's one of those things where eventually if we want to spend full price, now we can.
Exactly.
Well, now we can't. Now we know we want to.
Yeah, but
now we know it won't be a waste of money.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the important. I mean, it's probably, again, it's all marketing, right? Like, it's like they know that eventually, if they give us this, they'll lead us in. Just like the whole, oh, you got a free gift from Target, come into. They don't do that, but one of those things, right? Same thing with like rain jacket. We kind of got a heads up on the the Black Friday sale. I don't know if it's a heads up technically, because they did, push it out publicly. But it's all that kind of stuff, and that's again one reason why we've been able to have the wardrobe that we have. It's pretty much it's luck. It's about friendships, and the thing is that we want to stress is that you shouldn't ask for this, and you can't depend on it. It's better when it's a welcome surprise, because all of this stuff, I can tell you firsthand here, I would spend full price on all this stuff. I know that I can't do that right now, and I'm pretty sure, due to how open I am, again, I'm very open with you guys, and all these people that I've met, they kind of know stuff that I've gone through. I remember I went to Inspiration, and they asked me, why were you late? And I go, oh, I was in a car crash like 4 hours ago. People, and I posted it on my Instagram before too. So I'm pretty sure these people kind of know, and maybe it's malicious that they're trying to give me discounts, and then I'm going to buy from them forever. And I'm hooked. But
the first one's always free.
Exactly. Teach a man to fish, and he becomes a fisherman.
Well, I guess that would be that would be if the Drake's guys taught you how to sew, and then it's like now you can make your own Drake's clothing.
Yeah, TM.
We haven't gotten that homie deal yet. We haven't had a master tailor teach us how to make teach us everything he knows.
Yeah, I'm gonna teach you. I'm gonna take you as an apprentice, and then you're gonna make Liverano suits for yourself now.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, it's been a really crazy journey here, and again, my point here, to be transparent, is that hopefully you guys can see that the journey, I don't know if hard is the right word, but it's based on a lot of luck.
It's unexpected. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's not expected. Like I didn't expect to buy the rain jacket stuff. Like after we got that discount for the quarantine discount on it. It's like, oh shit, now I know I'm hooked on rain jacket. Like it's like I'm gonna like if once I have the money, down the line, because I definitely respect the way rain jacket stuff has been made and all that kind of stuff. But it's like, ah shit, I'm gonna have to spend that money if I want a future balloon jacket on it. You know what I mean? Or especially with like when friends are doing the vintage picking and everything. It's like of course you want to support your friends and local businesses too, right? You should want to spend the money that they're offering. Again, be wise about it. Don't be stupid and like spend your whole paycheck when you got to pay for your car. But it's nice that we've been able to kind of experience the things that we've always wanted, because if you take away a lot of what Spencer and I have been wearing that was like given to us either through luck or through friends, we wouldn't have the wardrobe that we have now.
Yeah.
And if we did buy these things, it would be like the one thing, because again, getting minimum wage, part-time job or whatever is not the business. It's not.
So to reiterate, you can have luck and friends, but the real secret is to have lucky friends who are leprechauns and can grant you wishes.
Actually, I think they prefer the term owlless.
Owlless? Is that from the
Comedy Bang Bang
Harry Potter? Oh, Comedy Bang Bang. That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if that was a Harry Potter thing or an Artemis Fowl. Did you see the Artemis Fowl Disney Plus?
I did not watch it.
Movie. That's bad. I read the book as a kid, so I was like, I knew it was gonna be bad, but I went in anyway, and I just want to make sure everyone knows I hate Josh Gad, one of the worst actors on the planet. He was terrible in that movie.
I have never read the book. I have no idea what to expect looking at it.
It's not anything like the book, I'll tell you.
Okay, sure, I'll take your word for it. But yeah, I mean, other than lucky friends, it's also good to just have fucking money. You know what I mean? Like every time we have these sales, I mean, even in Discord, right? We Spencer and I put these like the things that we find on eBay, but in reality, we're not buying any of it. You know what I mean? Like we're pretty good so far. I mean, again, Spencer and I have been mainly focusing on entertainment, and stuff to make our home life a little bit better. I have another monitor in front of me right now. Also, guys, if you're not working with two monitors, you're
not working.
Yeah, dude, it'll change your life. I remember I had a job with 3 monitors. That was the best. That was my internship. That was literally my internship. Accounting makes sense, right? Accounting, gotta have spreadsheets everywhere. No, it was like emails in one, spreadsheet in one, QuickBooks in the other one, and it was like that. There's a little accounting joke for you guys. There's no accounting.
That was very funny. I love the accounting joke.
Thank you. But yeah, I think in the grand scheme of things, we still buy a lot of stuff on our own. Everything is spent with our own money.
Yeah.
And, every once in a while we get some fun stuff. I mean, shout out McGill. They sent me these cords I'm wearing right now. These are, no, actually, no, I bought these ones. See, I mean, hey, actually, he did give me one free pair.
You did get a free pair at one point, right?
Yeah, I did. It was after the blokes, Christmas party or whatever, and I wrote about like McGill and how I was finally able to try some on, because at the time I hadn't met him before, and I was I still want to do a podcast and a feature on him. Todd's a really cool guy, really great designer. These cords are fantastic, especially after a wash. But then I bought some, you know what I mean? So, and then I think over quarantine he also gave me a free pair. He gave me the orange ones for free. He was like, hey dude, by the way, like these are like the last ones. Here you go, because I know you wanted the orange pants, and they're fucking awesome, and yeah, so it's all about having patience, learning the limitations of like your income and your wardrobe, because I think that obviously our background with again working minimum wage retail jobs, being in school at the same time and having this hobby has taught us like to kind of take it easy and learn like what you can and can't buy. Like there are times when Spencer and I are like, oh, we found like 30s belt backs. This is way back when, but like 30s belt backs in our size, and everyone's like, hey, just go into debt. You know, our guy in the vintage community is like, hey, just get a credit card, go into it. I know he's like, joking. He's like half joking. You know?
Well, no, I think okay. So the guy we're talking about, I don't want to dox him because he's a nice guy, but he has this weird thing where he constantly complains. I mean, I'm not on Facebook much anymore, so I have, and also especially not on like vintage Facebook groups, so I haven't seen it in a while. But one thing I remember, he'd always be like, people complain about how the vintage market is so bad and no one's selling all these things. Well, you're not giving them any incentive to sell. He's like, if you care about this, you will get another credit card to buy vintage to incentivize people to sell vintage to you. And I'm like, you're crazy, dude.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah.
I also want to say again, to recap again, like Spencer and I, our lives in LA are a lot different than what other people expect them to be. A lot of us live at home, still in college. You know, we're not exactly there yet, right? Compared to a lot of people in the Discord as well. And lastly, you know, obviously we like to get stuff from a bunch of variety of places. Don't be afraid to mix expensive with cheap. And again, I use expensive and cheap with relative terms here, because like I've worn like Uniqlo, like a sweater with like a Drake's tie, where it doesn't fucking matter. I've worn my Ascot Chang suit with like a thrifted shirt. That's not a big deal, you know. I think that that's something that Spencer and I have kind of gotten in our heads, right? Like it's all clothes. We all spent exactly the amount that we thought was appropriate, because if it wasn't appropriate, we wouldn't have bought it, right? We wouldn't have bought it. And again, I want to say that we're extremely lucky that we still live at home. We don't have to worry about rent and other bills of life. Again, I still have to pay for my car and everything. I know a lot of people do that too. But again, you can't save to move out. You literally can't do that. You need to have regular income coming in that can support you and your life. And yeah, we're not there, and we don't know if it's going to change yet, because we're still in it. Spencer is still, you know, he hasn't graduated yet, right? I just started this new job, which is basically like me starting over, you know, resume wise, I guess, because it's not menswear. And maybe in the future this will change. Maybe, you know, obviously, if we could buy a ring jacket, we could. If we could buy the cool vintage, you know, the actual World War II piece that we want, the camo monkey pants, we could. But we can't, and we're just gonna look at them and lust after it, you know. But hopefully you guys found this kind of interesting, and that, you know, don't let your income or whatever deter you from trying out new styles and trying out clothing. Just it kind of forces you to be creative with it. Again, we're not saying that you should start a blog just because you think you're going to get free stuff, but I definitely think that if you expand it by, you know, going on eBay, going to flea markets, meeting people, because sometimes, you know, occasionally, like a couple times for eBay, you know, a guy will be like, hey, I don't want this, but this is cheap. It's in your size. Here's like a 60s jacket. Let me know if you like, you know, I'm sending it to you. Like, oh shoot, thanks, dude. And you buy it, right? Like we all kind of do that, especially in the Patreon, right? We're like, hey, here's some cool Ralph Lauren.
Where you can pay $5 and get access to the shopping links channel.
That's right. You know, but I mean, yeah, I mean, that's how like our other friends, like Adam, I think is a great, we got to get Adam on the pod, but you know, he's a great example of a guy who doesn't want to spend a lot of money on clothes, but he has developed a really good wardrobe. You know, maybe not as tailored or as crazily workwear milsurp as Spencer and I, but in terms of what he's got going on, right? Like he got like vintage, like 70s, 80s, like Levi's jeans, high-waisted. You know, he didn't have to buy Resolute denim. He didn't have to buy LVCs. He got those, which can affect a similar look to us. White socks and Alan Edmonds penny loafers. And then he wears that with like a fucking like Uniqlo turtleneck. Fucking great, you know? And I think he looks stylish, and a great example that you don't always need a lot of money to look good. But if he came to us and said, hey guys, I really want a World War II pea coat with the corduroy pockets on the inside, you're going to have to like, okay, that's probably going to be like $100 or so, right? Especially because he's a bigger guy, it's going to be, you know, more expensive. But, you know, there are ways definitely to go around this. There are alternatives. Again, the blog and everything that we do should be a testament to that. Yeah, go out there, experience menswear, and manufacture some of that luck, you know, but don't depend on it, because it's going to be
don't depend on the luck of the Irish, or the luck of what did we call the leprechauns?
The owless.
The owless. Don't rely on the owless.
Do you know why that's a thing? Like what? Do you remember what it stands for?
No, I don't.
It stands for gold loving Irish shorty.
Oh, and of course, gold is AU.
That's right. Alternate universe.
In the periodic table. That's right. Of course.
Yep. That's what's going on. But anyway, guys, thank you for listening to this episode of... I was saying listening to this episode of Comedy Bang Bang. Did you guys hear me say the C?
Not quite. Yeah.
Again, I told you guys, I've always wanted to host my own Comedy Bang Bang. But thank you for listening to Down Direction. You know, if you guys, again...
Is this just like, you have your theory of alternates or approximations? This is your approximation of Comedy Bang Bang?
Yeah, that's it. That's what this is.
You couldn't afford to buy Comedy Bang Bang from Scott Aukerman.
I couldn't buy Earwolf.
Yeah, you couldn't buy Earwolf, and so it's like, well, fuck. I'm gonna have to do it.
I'm gonna have to learn how to do a podcast myself. And next step, making my own liver on a suit. But thank you to our Sadcast fanatics, Seth Peterson, Eric Hall, Austin Malott, Shane Curry, Philip Gagard, and Audrey Jessica for being our top tier patrons. We love them a lot. I don't know what you're doing, Matt. You're scary.
He's gonna get on mic.
He's gonna get on mic. Well, he can't unless he's recording. What's it called? What else was I saying? Oh yeah, if you guys want to be a part of the Discord and the Patreon, you're gonna have to. Well, being on the Patreon. What was I saying? How do I?
I don't know. Join the. Yeah. Become a patron
of the Patreon. There we go.
At Patreon,
I couldn't even say it this time.
At patreon.com/style and direction, $5 a month. As I said before, gets you access to the Discord where we have our shopping links channel specific to this episode. I mean, it's always there, but tying it into this episode, again, that's where we post stuff that we find on eBay that maybe doesn't fit us, or like just good deals that we find. There's a lot of other stuff, bonus episodes. You get one every month.
Yep.
And if you want to give us even more money for the opportunity to hear your name read by us, then that's what we call the Sad Fanatics.
I don't know if we've ever explained what that was, but that's who Seth Peterson and those guys were. Hey, Seth Peterson got 2 of them.
Hey, you got to pay us extra this month.
Yeah, don't forget that we stream on Twitch twice a week. We put the highlights on YouTube usually. You can catch us Wednesday and Saturday nights, 8 to 10 p.m. Pacific Standard Time at twitch.tv/style and direction. You can follow us on Instagram at style and direction, all spelled out. Mine is Ethan M. Wong.
I'm Spencer DSO.
And thank you to Matt and MJ for producing the episode. There we go. We'll see you guys in the next one where we're going to talk about influencers and hustle culture. It's going to be a big one, baby. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.